Jules the Right, and I welcome you to my channel. I want to use this opportunity to thank all those who subscribe to my channel and all those who are yet to subscribe to my channel. Please do justice to that. Today, we are going to look at various conspiracy theories or fake news circulating on the internet and on various social media platforms. The WHO calls it infodemic. Yes, the word is infodemic. It is the overabundance of information. Some of these information are accurate and others are not, rendering it very difficult to find trustworthy sources of various information and for reliable guidance. As COVID-19 crisis worsens, the world also faces a global misinformation pandemic, conspiracy theories that behaves like the virus themselves and are spreading quickly online, just like SARS-CoV-2 does offline. And today, yes, we are going to look at 10 conspiracy theories making rounds on the internet. And before I begin listing all these conspiracies, I implore that after you are done watching this video, you also go do your own research concerning everything that I've said. And doing your own research doesn't mean that you should go to Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter for your information. No. Go to credible websites like the CDC, like the World Health Organizations, like your country's website for credible information and for your own research. So, conspiracy number 1. Blaming of 5G. This conspiracy theory should be easy to debunk. It is biologically impossible for viruses to spread using electromagnetic spectrum. The latter are waves of photons, whilst the former are biological particles which are composed of proteins and nucleic acids. But that isn't really the point. Conspiracy theories are enticing because they often link two things which at first might appear to correlate. In this, the rapid rollout of the 5G network was taking place at the same time the pandemic hit. Now, what is the 5G network? 5G is or the fifth generation is a mobile network technology. And we have various types of network carriers such as MTN, Vodafone, Glo, etc. So it means there are two types. You have the network technology. So 5G is a network technology. And then we have the network carriers. Okay? Now, then we also have mobile phones. Now, as time went on, phones also developed from this point to that point. Through its development, the network also developed. So we have from 1G to 5G. These are generations of phones which moves with the phone's development. Therefore, from simple making of calls to moving around whilst on phone, those times, these phones that we are talking about are stationary. Okay, so one has to do a phone call stationary. Like you can make the phone call stationary. By now, you can move around with your flat screen phone or your phones, or you can move around with your phones and then make calls as you are on the move. Okay, as the phone developed, so also the generations, the 1G, 2G, it also developed. Therefore, from simple making of calls to moving around whilst on the move or whilst on the phone, text messaging, and now the 5G that we are witnessing today in some other countries, of course, it's yet to come to Africa. It's applicable to all things. That is linking all appliances. Indeed, the world is changing and advancing in technology. Trump, the US president, in February 2019, tweeted that he even wanted 6G and 7G in the US since it is going to create about 350 million jobs and also add about 500 billion US dollars to the US economy. That is why the US and the Chinese are competing in launching in launching 5G in their countries. Of course, we know who actually won that competition. 5G network will bring various changes in our lives, such like driverless cars. It can make you download things faster on the internet. It can make you make hologram calls, okay? Instead of doing a normal video call like Zoom or anything, you can call someone and the person will just appear in a hologram form where you are. You can perform surgery, remotely, okay? Just as what has happened in China. One doctor in China also performed brain surgery remotely using 5G, and many more. I have been able to compile some videos of these advances in some countries. I want us to watch these videos and then we'll continue. So let's watch the videos.
Beyond. Pony AI is offering robotaxi ride-hailing experience in geo-fenced districts in China and the US. The car is capable of handling complicated and crowded scenarios. The passengers can enjoy a smooth ride, even knowing a safety operator has been freed from operating the car.
有8个视觉传感器，这样构成对车的360度的环境准。
I'm about to go for a ride in one of Waymo's fully driverless cars here in Phoenix, Arizona. Google has been working on self-driving cars for over 10 years now. In 2016, Google spun out its project as a separate company called Waymo. Yeah, that's really weird, seeing the kind of the steering wheel kind of move on its own like that. I like the notice on the steering wheel too, says, "Do not touch steering wheel or pedals, the vehicle will pull over."
Tests.
New Zealand's first 5G holographic call. Tony, let's have a crack at this and see. I actually asked them to make you about this big. Job 1 wasn't done, but...
This call is going to be the UK's first holographic call live using 5G, so super exciting.
Size, Japanese, keynote. Render, keynote.
It is worth repeating, as the World Health Organization points out, that the viruses cannot travel on mobile networks and that COVID-19 is spreading rapidly in many countries that do not have the 5G network. Even so, this conspiracy theory, after being spread by celebrities with big social media followings, has led to cell phone towers being set on fires in the UK, the US, and in several parts of the globe. Let's watch some of the videos.
This is just one of over a dozen fires targeting 5G towers in the Netherlands. And the country isn't alone. Cyprus, Belgium and Ireland among those home to conspiracy theorists who believe 5G may have some connection to COVID-19. The UK has reported around 50 fires targeting towers and other 5G equipment. Media reports broadband engineers have been harassed on the job, sworn at and yelled at by people taken in by the rumours. England's National Medical Director had this to say.
It's nonsense. It's the worst kind of fake news. And I'm absolutely outraged, absolutely disgusted that people would be taking action against the very infrastructure that we need to respond to this health emergency.
The idea behind the theory is that 5G radio waves are harmful. But health experts have slammed the idea. An Australian cybersecurity expert called it a myth and said it is wrong and destructive. The WHO has maintained that 5G has no consequences for public health, and European authorities have labelled it disinformation.
And I want to be very clear here, there's no geographic or any other correlation between the deployment of 5G and the outbreak of the virus.
But it's an uphill battle as rumours spread on social media. Facebook announced in March it would take down posts peddling false claims and conspiracy theories. It's led to anti-5G groups in Australia and the UK being shut down. YouTube has also pledged to clamp down on disinformation, but this hasn't stopped videos appearing on other websites. The fight against false theories is set to continue, with fear and confusion taking an extra toll on a world already in the midst of a crisis. Nicole Ng.
You should know that coronavirus has been with us for a very long time, since the 1960s. And during those times, we didn't have advanced technologies. We didn't have even 1G, but there was coronavirus. You need to understand that coronavirus is, it's a family. That's a coronavirus, and this family is made up of various strains. Okay, if you could remember, in 2002 and 2003, there was an outbreak of the SARS-CoV. Okay, that is the severe acute respiratory syncytial virus outbreak. That was in 2002. Fast forward, in 2013, we have the MERS-CoV, that is a Middle East respiratory syncytial virus, which was partly an outbreak in the Middle East. And now we have COVID-19, or the SARS-CoV-2. So you see, we have different strains of the coronavirus, and sometimes these strains mutate and are very deadly. That is what we are seeing today in this pandemic. There has been also talks of people trying to link it to radiations, and this is false. Emissions coming from these towers and these marks are non-ionizing and cannot cause any harm to anybody, unlike the sun that have ionizing rays like the ultraviolet rays. I was able to also get a nice video of I was able to get this video of the person trying to explain the differences between ionizing and non-ionizing emissions or radiations. I want us to look at this video.
A recent investigation by the New York Times traces the fear of 5G back to Russian propaganda.
That 5G is causing its harmful, cause birth defects, brain tumors, cancer, and from the other side of it, there's experts saying that no, that's absolutely false.
However, in Russia, 5G cell towers are widespread.
All of our connected devices emit radio frequency electromagnetic energy of various wavelengths, and this is referred to as non-ionizing radiation. It's not considered energetic enough to cause any health effects. On the other side of the spectrum, you have high frequency wavelengths such as ultraviolet radiation from the sun or X-ray. This is a more powerful type of energy, and it's known as ionizing radiation.
So you see, there is no link between 5G and the spread of the coronavirus. As I said, I would implore you to do your own research concerning 5G network and the coronavirus, and you would see that there is no link. You should know that 5G, or the 5th generation network, is just a network technology. Okay, coronavirus they are biological particles, and these biological particles are made up of proteins and nucleic acid and cannot travel in electromagnetic spectrum, which uses photons. It cannot. It is impossible. But as I'm telling you, make your own research and draw your own conclusions. Conspiracy theory number 2. Using Bill Gates, the richest man on the planet, as a scapegoat. Most conspiracy theories, like the virus, they resemble, constantly mutate, and have several variants circulating at any one time. Many of these plots and subplots seem to involve Bill Gates, who became a new target of disinformation after gently criticizing the defunding of the World Health Organization. Most people are criticizing him based on a video he made in 2015 during one of the TED Talks given by Bill Gates, where he discussed the outbreak of Ebola and he warned of a new pandemic that may arise in the future.
The impact of a huge epidemic, like a flu epidemic, would be phenomenal because all the supply chains would break down. Today, the greatest risk of global catastrophe doesn't look like this. Instead, it looks like this. If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus rather than a war. We're not ready for the next epidemic. The impact of a huge epidemic, like a flu epidemic, would be phenomenal because all the supply chains would break down, there'd be a lot of panic, many of our systems would be overloaded, and so we all hope that doesn't come along. But being ready for epidemics of different sizes, there's a lot more we should do. The resources to go engage in the affected countries, the allocation decisions. As we've seen various flu scares come along, we haven't had a super good response. Using the flu vaccine doesn't really work that well in the equatorial regions because you don't get this lead time like we do in the northern hemisphere. But a universal flu vaccine, I think, would be brilliant because it would reduce pandemic risk. I also think the human health benefit would be larger, particularly in developing countries, than we'd expect.
The COVID-19 pandemic, and even purposely caused it so that what he said will come to pass. So if I may ask, my virology lecturer at school also said or predicted that a pandemic of that sort would happen. Does it make him also someone who has caused the pandemic? Definitely no, it doesn't. It doesn't. These are viruses, as I said, and they mutate over time. Today, they are mild. Tomorrow, they are very dangerous. A recent variant of this particular conspiracy theory, particularly coming from our beloved anti-vaccination activists, is the fact that COVID-19 is also a plot by Bill Gates to vaccinate the whole world population. But of course, it's true. People are dying. So if we are able to discover that there is a vaccine, what do you expect? They have to vaccinate the whole world. There is a kind of truth in this, of course. Vaccinating much of the world's population may well be the only way to avoid an eventual death toll of tens of thousands of millions of people. But anti-vaccination activists don't believe vaccines work. Instead, some have spread the myth that Gates wants to use the vaccination program to implant digital microchip that will somehow track and control people, which is not true. The spread of misinformation has meant that the ID 2020, which is a small non-profit organization that focuses on establishing digital IDs for poorer people around the world, has had to call on in the FBI for protection. So this is all about Bill Gates. All the talks about Bill Gates being involved in the COVID-19 infection or COVID-19 pandemic. Conspiracy number 3. The virus escaped from a Chinese lab. This one, at least, has a benefit of being plausible. It is true that the original epicenter of the pandemic was the Chinese city Wuhan. In Wuhan, also, there is a virology institute where researchers have been studying about bat coronaviruses for a very long time. One of these researchers, Xin Zhengli, who is a prominent virologist who spent years collecting bat dung samples in caves and was the lead expert on the earlier SARS outbreak in 2002-2003, was sufficiently concerned about the prospect that she spent days frantically checking lab records to see if anything did go wrong concerning this whole COVID-19 infection. She admits breathing a sign of relief when genetic sequence showed that the new SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus did not match any of the viruses that was sampled and was studied in the Virology Institute in Wuhan and by her team. However, the sheer coincidence of China lead institute studying bat coronaviruses being in the same city as the origin of the COVID outbreak has proven too juicy for conspiracists to resist. This idea has made some heads of state even called the virus the Chinese virus. Of course, you know who I'm talking about. You should note that these viruses changes over time, as I've said, or they mutate. Because of this, the Chinese authorities had to shut down all researches which involves investigating the origin of the SARS-CoV-2. And I really understand what they did, but it also raised more suspicion around the globe. In fact, Trump made several allegations and even halted the funding of the World Health Organization by the United States of America. Well, as we are advancing in technology, so also our nutrition transition, so also our nutrition, our taste for food. But we should all learn to cook everything that we eat very well, all meat and other things very well. We should learn to cook them very well, because indeed the SARS-CoV-2, scientists are still researching on its origin, but most scientists or most researchers believe that it was a seafood which apparently was not cooked properly. So that is the conspiracy number 3. For the fact that it originated from a Chinese lab. Conspiracy number 4. COVID was created as a biological weapon. COVID-19 was created as a biological weapon. The Spicer variant is that COVID not only escaped from the lab, but it was intentionally created by the Chinese authorities as a biowarfare weapon. According to a research done in the US, it was reported that nearly 3 in 10 Americans believe that COVID-19 was made in the lab, and either intentionally or accidentally, the former is more popular, and specifically 23% believe it was developed intentionally, with only 6% believing it was an accident. This theory can easily be debunked now that there is unambiguous scientific evidence, thanks to genetic sequencing, that the SARS-CoV-2 virus has entirely natural origins as a zoonotic virus originating from bats. Ever since this particular research was published, whistleblowers or conspiracists now has to come out to come and admit that the previous story that the SARS-CoV-2 is a biowarfare weapon was probably false. Conspiracy number 5. The US military imported COVID into China. The US military imported COVID into China. Of course, it seems like the movies we have been watching is coming to pass. The Chinese government responded to the anti-China theories with a conspiracy theory of its own that seeks to turn the blame, back around onto the United States of America. This idea was spread initially by the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Linjiang, who tweeted, "It is possible that the US military brought the virus into Wuhan." This comment, according to the Voice of America News, echoed in a rumored conspiracy widely circulated in China that the US military personnel brought the virus to China during their participation in the 2019 Military World Games in Wuhan last October. For China, as the Atlantic reported, the conspiracy theory and an accompanying attempt to rename the COVID virus or the SARS-CoV-2 virus as a USA virus was transparent geopolitical ploy useful for domestic propagandas but not widely believed internationally. Of course, we've seen several heads of state, particularly Donald Trump, making several allegations against China, even calling the virus the Chinese virus. So in turn, the Chinese authority also tried to blame the Americans and they did this by saying that a military personnel in America brought the virus into Wuhan during the 2019 World Games in Wuhan last October, which of course is false because of the advanced scientific technology that we are seeing today. I mean the genetic sequencing of the current SARS-CoV-2. Conspiracy number 6. You may not know, but genetically modified crops has also had its own share with this infodemic informations. Genetically modified crops has been a target of conspiracy theories for years. So it was hardly a surprise to see GMOs blamed in an early stages of the COVID pandemic. In early March, the Italian attorney by name Francisco Bilotta penned a very bizarre article for the two manifesto, falsely claiming that GM crops cause genetic pollution that allows viruses to proliferate due to the resulting environmental imbalance. Just look at that. Anti-GMOs activists have also tried to blame modern agriculture, which is strange since the known path of the virus into human population, as with Ebola, HIV, and many more, was through a very ancient practice of people capturing and killing wildlife. So it is impossible for you to be able to trace the virus into GM, into agriculture, modern agriculture. It is impossible. Yes, it is impossible. Conspiracy number 7. COVID-19 doesn't actually exist. And this is the worst form of conspiracy. And that is what is killing. And it's killing most measures which countries and the WHO has put in place in their member states. In my country, Ghana, people don't actually believe that this particular virus exists. Therefore, they are not putting on their masks. They are not following the written down protocols by the health authorities, which is making it very difficult for the government to control the spread of the coronavirus. According to professional conspiracy theorists like David Icke, they say that COVID-19 doesn't actually exist, but it is a plot. It is a plot by the globalist elite to take away our freedom. Just look at that. People are dying, and they are saying it is a plot by global elite to take away our freedom. Early weaker versions of this theory were prevalent on the political right in the notion that the novel coronavirus would be no worse than flu. So you see, because people don't actually believe that the virus exists, people are protesting all over the world against government, and this particular is a deadly situation. And as a result, the virus is rocketing sky high. It is rising in various countries, especially in my country, Ghana. And because of that, most governments are making certain measures mandatory, just like putting on a face mask mandatory. If you are found not putting on a face mask, you can be arrested and prosecuted. And I think it's the best. It is the best. It is the best. Conspiracy number 8. Number 8. The pandemic is being manipulated by the deep state. By the deep state. By the deep state. As I said, people believe that there are some individuals, the heads of state, the government, are the ones massaging the figures, which is not true. Which is not true. Why should one delight in the death of people? It's never true. This is a pandemic. It is not a political scene or a political propaganda by government to make them popular. No, or to amass wealth unto themselves. But let me say this: if you are a government and you are using this pandemic as a means to amass wealth for yourself, then you are also a disgrace, and you should be shameful of what you are doing. Conspiracy number 9. COVID-19 is a plot by Big Pharma. Many conspiracy theory promoters are in the reality clever actors trying to sell out quack products. Okay, Alex Jones urges viewers to buy expensive miracle pills that he claims can cure all known diseases. Dr. Makola, a quack anti-vaccination activist and anti-GMO medic who has been banned from Google due to peddling misinformation, claims that vitamins and numerous other products he sells can cure and prevent COVID-19. Natural News, another conspiracy site, sells all manner of pills, potions, and all manner of potions to people. These conspiracies depend on getting markets, a large number of markets. These sites are saying that advanced medical practices are not good enough in treating and in curing these coronavirus patients, and their drugs, or their only drugs, is what is good in curing these SARS-CoV-2 pandemic, which is false and not true. They are trying everything possible to convince people in order for them to get market onto their site by saying that vitamins, what they sell, is the only drug, or traditional whatever is the only drugs that could help cure the pandemic or treat COVID-19. Conspiracy number 10. COVID death rates are inflated. As I said, and this has been a major problem. This particular conspiracy has been a major problem in various countries in their bid in controlling the upsurge of the virus. And it has proven futile that most countries are using military powers and all that in order to get people to obey the rules which has been set by the government and by the WHO. I must say that these conspiracies Nobody is inflating any number. I am a scientist, a laboratory scientist, and have been testing for this SARS-CoV-2. And I must say, it's real and it is true. I've been to the treatment centers and it is true. People are dying from this coronavirus outbreak. People are at ICUs struggling for air, struggling to breathe. So please, stop all these conspiracies. Let us all unite in fighting this coronavirus so that we all will go out to beaches, we all will go out to churches, to our disco, to the markets, all free. We will all stop wearing this mask. It is uncomfortable wearing mask, nose mask. But what can we do? Now is the time for us to unite. Let's forget about all these conspiracies. They are not true. They are not true. So viewers, these are the 10 conspiracy theories that for the past 3 months has been going on social media, right from blaming 5G to saying that some of these COVID-19 figures are massaged, or some of the figures are being massaged, or death is being massaged, which is not true. So kindly do your own research on credible websites, the CDC, the WHO, your country's health website, and get all the credible information so that you could also make your own stand. You could also have your own stand in this pandemic. But as a scientist, as a health worker, I am telling you that all these conspiracy theories are not true. They are not true, and they do not exist. Follow the procedure. Wear your face shields, wear your nose mask, wash your hands with soap and running water. Use 70%, at least 70% alcohol-based sanitizers. Go into town when you are needed to go into town, and stay home and stay safe. Remember to subscribe to my channel. This is all time will allow us today. I'm your host, Andrews the Right. See you again next time. Bye.